What's going on, amazing people? Welcome to the Beyond Prosperous channel. Welcome to another video. I'm super excited that you're here. Listen, if you already read the title, then you know what we're talking about today, understanding wisdom from the Bible. And so, practically speaking, I'm not an expert, I'm not a guru, I'm not a Bible scholar or anything like that, but I am somebody that's constantly seeking how to be better and how to be the best person that I can possibly be to achieve everything that I imagine, everything that I think. I grind and I try to do my best to increase my mindset, to expose myself to different things so that I can ultimately have everything that I desire to have. And so today we're talking about wisdom. Let me share a little bit of I'm going to give you practical tips, right? Practical tips on how to ultimately take what I'm talking about today and ultimately use and build on your wisdom, the wisdom that you have in order to be and become the person that you're ultimately trying to be. So we're going to get into those things. And just for 60 seconds, I want to share with you kind of my story and how I guess the beginning of everything that me seeking this wisdom and trying to find the best understanding that I can possibly find. All right. So a couple of years ago, I got married. And while I'm married, I'm looking and I'm thinking about my future. I'm like, okay, so I'm married now. I understand that I'm, in a sense, the man of the house and that I have to provide for my family. And so what does that actually look like? What does that mean for me? And for me personally, I always had this mindset and this desire to be financially free. And so I'm just like, okay, so what does that mean? How do I seek that? And so I'm in college at the time. And so at the time that I'm having this kind of aha moment, I'm in our apartment. I'm on the floor and I'm trying to think, okay, what do I know about wealthy people? What have I heard? What have I learned? What have I seen in movies and TV shows? I'm like, they have stock. They buy stock. They invest in stock. And so I start digging on YouTube, of course. I start digging into everything that I could find, any information that I could find on stocks. Okay, so that was the doorway. That was the doorway of me trying to seek and understand. Really, at that time, we was trying to understand wealth. So now let's talk about wisdom in general. So first of all, I thought that wisdom was a deep understanding of a specific thing. I thought that if I continued to dig and I continued to look at videos and spend hours looking at videos and ultimately finally understand it a little bit, I thought that would have meant that I had wisdom. But that is wrong. And so if that is your understanding of wisdom, then you'll get to learn something today based on what we talk about. Okay, so like I said, I thought that wisdom was a deep understanding of a specific topic, but now I realize that so now I realize that wisdom actually comes before understanding. Got our dry erase board, we're going to actually use it. All right, so wisdom actually comes before understanding. So why is that important? Because so many of us, we try to find understanding before we find wisdom. So many of us, we try to find understanding before we find wisdom. So now, okay, you're like, okay, if wisdom is the beginning, then how do I actually get to understanding? Well, today we're going to talk specifically about wisdom. So how do we get that first part down? All right, so basically the base of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. And we'll read some scripture so that we can kind of sow this into the ground. So the base of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. So let's go over here. So this is the foundation. So this is the fear of. Let's go back here. All right. So the fear of the Lord. So the base. So this is the base. The base of wisdom. So the base of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. All right, so the base of wisdom is the fear of the Lord, right? So some of you may be saying, okay, so if the base of wisdom is the fear of the Lord, I know what you're thinking. You're like, okay, so how can somebody that does not necessarily fear the Lord have wisdom? Or how can they have this uh, be wise in that sense. So, okay, yeah. So the fear of the Lord is actually, to my understanding, not a Bible scholar, but the fear of the Lord is to believe in the laws that God has created. So whether you call them the laws or not, you are still abiding by the laws that God has created. For instance, gravity. This is just a very general example. We all understand gravity. So gravity says that if anything falls, it's going to fall down to the center of the earth because of the pull of gravity, right? And so in life, the people that understand that the fear of the they understand the rules and the laws that govern the universe. They use those laws to actually develop and to take them further in their life. So you may say, okay, I'm trying to build a business. Okay, I'm trying to make my relationship better. Okay, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. Well, you have to understand, if you want wisdom in that specific area, you have to have the fear of the Lord. You have to understand what the actual foundation, what the actual truth is about that specific thing. Okay, so where do we find that? Obviously, we find that in the Bible. So let's go ahead and go to our first scripture. So it's Job. I'll write this on. So I'll just write this here. So we got Job 28 and 28. That is an 8. So we have Job 28 and 28. And I'm in the NIV version. So hopefully you know what that means. But if you don't, it's okay. So I'm in the NIV version. It says, and he said to the human race, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom. And to shun evil is understanding. Now, we'll get to understanding later. Actually, there's going to be a part 2 of this kind of understanding of wisdom, or understanding of wisdom and understanding, and how wisdom comes before understanding. So yes, in this verse, it says that, and he said, the human race is the fear of the Lord. That is wisdom. This is wisdom. This is wisdom and is the foundation of wisdom. All right, so let's go to our second scripture. We just have 2 today. And that's going to be Daniel 2 and 21. And I'll write that down for you. We'll just write Dan 2 and 21. All right, so there we go. So what does that say? It says, he changes times and seasons. He disposes kings and raises up others. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. And knowledge to the discerning. So what do? He gives wisdom. So let's write over here. He actually gives wisdom. So this is gives to the wise. Okay, so now this is going to be fun. So he gives wisdom. This is kind of a backwards formula, but he gives wisdom. He gives wisdom to the wise. So you have to be a wise person already. And so I was reading C.S. Lewis in his book, Mere Christianity, and he talked about a good person, a good and a bad person. So we'll just say, we have a decent understanding that we're all good and we're all bad, like that we are not perfect, to say the least. We're not perfect. And so what C.S. Lewis was saying in his book, he said that the only person that can ask for forgiveness is a good person. And the reason that he said that is he was saying that basically the only reason that a good man can ask for forgiveness, even though he's a good man, is because the good man understands that he needs forgiveness. And the bad man does not even understand that he needs forgiveness because he is wrapped, he's engulfed in what we would say evil or his flesh. And so I'll break that down just a little bit. So to my understanding, everything good about a person is actually because of God. Everything good about a person is actually because of God. Nothing good about us comes from anything outside of who God is. And so everything good comes from God. Our flesh, it wants to protect itself. It wants to be satisfied with its desires. So to protect itself, it doesn't want you to be uncomfortable. Anything that makes you uncomfortable, it shies away from. That's why you will Okay, so I'm trying not to go too deep. All right, so your flesh, it wants to protect itself and it wants to satisfy its desires. And so If you've ever tried to resist temptation, you have a sense of this. It's crazy. It is one of the craziest feelings when you try to resist temptation, but everything in you wants that thing. It's like, am I not in control? Yeah. Am I not in control? Because the flesh wants what it wants. It has nothing to do with who you. And so this is how we can tell the difference between the being and the spirit. And so the reality, this realm and the spirit realm, right? So that's just really, really basic, general. Like the only way to get wisdom is to be wise. The only way to get wisdom is to understand that you need wisdom. All right. So you can only get wisdom if you seek it, but you can only seek it if you're wise. If you're unwise, you don't even have the ability to get wisdom because you don't even have the understanding to seek it. Hopefully that makes sense. So now let's talk about wise and wisdom. So we got wise. So again, these are not my definitions, but these are also not word for word definitions of what I found. These are all right. So you'll get it. It's fine. The mastery of art. So this is the definition, just general definition to be wise. So the mastery of the art of living in accordance with God's expectations. So I'll say that again, and I'll go ahead and write it. So I'll just say this. The mastery of, the art of living according to God's all right, here we go. According to God's expectations. All right. Or to the expectation of God. What does that mean? So to be wise is the mastery, or it's the mastery of the art of living according with God's expectations. Okay, so ultimately, I can read it over and over, but it doesn't matter. All right, so ultimately, the mastery of the art of living according to God's expectation. This is what it means to be wise. This is what it means to actually understand and be able to decipher between good and evil. Why? Because if you're unable to decipher between good and evil, then you don't even have the ability to do good, or you don't like, and dang it. All right, so there's a law of I can't remember the law, but basically anything that's left to its own devices will turn into corruption. So you don't even have to intentionally try to do bad. Bad will happen automatically if you don't intentionally do good. That's another video. We'll get into that one in another. Okay, so this is general understanding of to be wise. All right, so to be wise in a secular sense. So we'll just say S. To be wise in a secular sense, it just means to be skillful or craftsman. So skillful / craftsman. It just means to be good at what you do. So to be wise in a secular sense is to be good at what you do. Again, this is why somebody that's an unbeliever, somebody that you may be like, how they don't even live by the Bible, they don't read their Bible. This is why, because to be wise is to be skillful and a craftsman. Like, that's it. That's the secular sense of wise. But what are we aiming for? We're aiming to be wise in the sense of what God actually wants us to do. So let's say wise in the biblical sense. All right. And again, these are definitions that I've looked up. They're not word for word, but you'll get the gist. All right. So one who fearing God. I know it sounds so deep. One who fearing God lives according to the expectation of God. Expectation of God. Okay. So again, what did we already say? We said the fear of God, the fear of the Lord is the foundation of wisdom, and the fear of the Lord is wisdom. And we've also talked about how you must be wise, and that he gives wisdom to the wise, and so that you must be wise to even get wisdom. And so the fear of the Lord, so one who fearing God lives according to the expectations of God. And so the expectations of God is the laws that God has put in place. So when we think about the laws that God has put in place, again, we're not just talking about gravity. We're talking about everything that God has said that he desires for his people to live by. And so for me, I believe that God, he sent Jesus he sent Jesus to earth to establish his kingdom. And so when Jesus was here on earth, he modeled out what it looked like to be a kingdom citizen. And what does that look like? That looked like one that fearing God lives according to the expectation of God. So whatever God has said his will is, that is what the kingdom citizen do on a day-to-day basis, just like being an American citizen. We live and we live our life according to the law of the land. Well, when you are a believer, you live your life according to the law of the King, which is the Lord, which is Jesus, which is the Son of God. Okay, cool. So that's all in the book of the Bible. So now let's get to wisdom. I don't want to take up too much of your time. We're going to keep it moving, all right? So wisdom, in a general sense, is the knowledge and ability to make the right choices at the opportune time. So just because you can rewind it and do it again, I'll just say knowledge and ability to, what do I say? Make right choices at the opportune time. Yes. So to make right choices. This is important at the opportune time. At the opportune time. Okay, so why is that important? Knowledge and ability to make, okay, so this can be broken down. This video can be super long, but we're going to keep this thing nice, crisp, and short, and so we can get to the next video. Okay, so knowledge and ability, that is a whole thing by itself, because in order to have the knowledge and ability, this is the mindset and the skill set. So this is the mindset and the skill set to make the right choices at the opportune time. The mindset is the knowledge or the things that you've studied, the resource that you've read, and the ability is the things that you do with your hand. So the knowledge and ability to make the right choices at the opportune time. The opportune time is in different seasons. Well, what I call seasons are basically different times of your life. There are different decisions that you have to make. And some of us, we know that because our lives has changed in a day or what feels like a day because of one decision. And maybe over the course of our lives, it's been 5 or 6 or 7 decisions that has basically given us the kind of life that we have, whether that's good or bad. And you have to take responsibility at some point, at some level, you have to take responsibility for the things that's going on in your life. Why? Because if you just continue to blame everyone else, you leave yourself powerless. All right. So let's keep it moving. So this is the general definition of wisdom. All right. So now let's break this other wisdom down. So we have wisdom in the secular sense. Also, secular does not mean evil or wrong. Like walking your dog is a secular task, but it's not evil. All right. So meaning is to have experience, or wisdom in the secular sense is to have experience, technical skills, or special abilities. So let's say to have experience and special ability. All right, so why is this important? I'm gonna teach you something else right here. So to have experience and special ability, again, you're desiring to be more for yourself. You're desiring to be more for your family. And for many of you, you're desiring to make more money for your family so that they don't have to struggle financially and be ultimately financially free. Well, this is a principle that you need to apply to your life. You need to have experiences and special abilities. And this does not mean becoming a superhero. This means actually being very good at what you do. And so to have experience and special ability is to have wisdom. So to actually be very, and again, this is in a secular sense, to have this special ability. And I believe this is ultimately how God intended for us to live in his kingdom, which was his initial intention, for us to have special abilities, meaning that different people do different things at the maximum quality that thing can be done. And so what does that look like? That means that if I'm a mechanic and somebody else cuts yards, I don't go out and cut my yard. I do everything that I'm supposed to do to learn how to be the best mechanic that I can possibly be. When I do that, I charge premium prices for my services. And so those people that pay me, I'm like, I'm good. Okay, so this other person, he knows everything about cutting a yard and how to fertilize it and how to make sure that it gets enough water and how to put this and that in. He specializes in what he does. And so I don't go out and do it myself. I pay him so that he can do that. Why? Because he has specialized in his thing. I believe that this is the way that the kingdom was supposed to be here on earth, where everyone specialized in their ability so that everyone flourishes. Like you don't. Okay, we'll move on. So wisdom in a biblical sense. We're almost done here, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, this is good. This is good. To embody the example of Jesus. To embody the example of Jesus. What does that mean? Again, like I said, Jesus came here on earth to present what it looks like to be a model Christian citizen. And so the only way to actually have true wisdom is, first of all, to understand the truth, which is to have the fear of the Lord, which is not trembling and crying and like, oh no, the Lord is coming to get me, but more so to have this, I can't even think of the word right now, to basically be such in awe of the King, to be such in awe of the Lord that you say, oh my goodness, this must be the truth. I can't live any other way. And when we have this understanding that everything about me, everything good about me is not even me, it doesn't even come from, it's like, I can't even desire to do good, but I can train myself to do good. Everything good comes from the Lord. Everything good comes from the Lord. Then we can embody what it looked like to be people, what it looked like to be an example of Jesus Christ. Okay? What it looks like to be an example of Jesus Christ. Now, you have to understand, you have to read, you have to study in order to actually have this, because if you don't study, if you don't know what that actually is, then you can never have what the Bible will call wisdom. What God really wants you to have is this level of wisdom where you are like a walking model of Jesus. And what is a walking model of Jesus? So, one that fearing the Lord lives according to the expectations of God. So if that was good for you, if that was good to you, go ahead and leave a like, leave a comment, share with somebody that you believe might be able to grow from this. But definitely leave me a message if you have any questions or if you have anything that you would like for me to talk about. That would be awesome. So yes, last thing that I want to share. When you truly embody wisdom, you embody the potential of changing the world. When you truly embody wisdom, or embody the example of Jesus, you embody the potential of changing the world. So let's go here. So, excuse me, the potential of changing the world. Why do I say potential? The reason that I say potential is because just having wisdom is not enough. Just having wisdom is not enough. How do we know that? I mean, just automatically, we see that wisdom leads to understanding. There's a level of understanding that actually this. So to embody that it's a process. So this right here is a process, right? All right. So why potential? It's because you have to have because to have wisdom is to have the foundation of truth, which is the beginning of knowledge. So we just ended right here, foundation. We finished here at the beginning of knowledge. At the beginning of knowledge. And so, why do I say that? At the beginning of knowledge, let's go back, Daniel 2, 21. Right? He changes times and seasons. He disposes kings and raises others up. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge. So, and knowledge to the discerning. The discerning is someone that can, again, discern between good and evil. So, in the next video, so you go ahead, like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any of the videos that's coming. Subscribe for part 2. If it's already out, I'll put it somewhere around here and put it on the screen. Also put it in the description. And so that will be awesome. The part 2 is going to be wisdom comes from knowledge. Wisdom comes from knowledge. And so wisdom comes from knowledge. So wisdom, yes. So wisdom or knowledge is second. There we go. All right, so knowledge is second. So wisdom comes from knowledge. Can't wait to see you in the next one. So enjoyed making this video. Can't wait for the next one. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.